All right, so the first one here, I see that the graph, and I just put a screenshot of Desmos in here, so I typed in all of that stuff in, not the zero equals, because the zero equals is going to mess it up, but you have to type all of that stuff in there. And then I just kind of zoomed out and changed the stuff with the kind of the wrench icon, which is up here in the top right corner of the graph. I just changed a couple of those things so that I could see this a little bit better. But what I want to focus on is this spot right here, which is x equals -1. X equals -1 is an x-intercept. That's a spot where it crosses the x-axis. And so because of that, I can say x equals -1 is a solution. And that means two ways, but it means that x minus -1 is a factor of this polynomial, okay? So I can divide my polynomial by x plus 1. So I'm going to take this and rewrite it as x plus 1. Inside the box, I want all of this stuff right here. So I'm going to have to start, whoops, going to have to start with a 15x cubed, which means I need an x, a 15x here, squared. Then I need 15x here, squared. I don't want 15x squared, I want 47x squared, so I need to add 32x squareds. And so then that means that I have to have a 32x here, which means that I'm going to have a 32x here, which means that I don't want 32x, I want 25x, so I need to subtract 7 x's from there, which means I need a -7 here, which means that I'm going to end up with a -7 here. Since this matches this, that means that I'm done with the division. Now, let's rewrite this polynomial that we started with right up here as a product. So we had x plus 1, and then our other stuff is 15x squared plus 32x minus 7. This is equal to 0. I can use the zero product property to say, okay, well then I know that x plus 1 equals 0, or 15x squared plus 32, x minus 7 equals 0. Okay. This problem seems like a good quadratic formula problem because the numbers are really big and I just would rather do that way. And then this one I can just get x by itself. So if I subtract 1, I get x equals -1. So there's my first answer. Remember that I should have 3 answers. It's a degree 3 polynomial. Okay, so let's go over here and use the quadratic formula for this part. So a is 15, b is 32, c is -7. X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so x equals -32 plus or minus the square root of 32 squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. A is 15. Okay. So then we get x equals -32 plus or minus the square root of 32 squared. I'm going to use my calculator. 32 squared is 1024. Okay, 4 times 15 is 60. 60 times -7. $60 times -7 is -420. So we're subtracting it, so there it is, like that, all over 30. Okay, x equals -32 plus or minus the square root of, okay, 1444 all over 30. I am fine with it if you circle that right there. Let's just check to see what the square root of 1444 is, and it's 38. So check this out. negative 32 plus or minus 38 over 30. Now, all of them are even, so I can divide everything by 2. So I would get negative 16 plus or minus half of 38 is 419 all over 15. Okay, let's just finish this one really quick. Negative 16 plus 19 is 3. And the minus is negative 16 minus 19, which is negative 35 over 15. Okay, this is 1/5. This is, divide everything by 5, we get negative 7 over 3. Negative 7/3, that's good. Okay, so let's circle our answers again here. We have answers that say x equals negative 1, x equals 1/5, and x equals negative 7/3. There they are. I'm going to just write them in a list really quick. X equals negative 1, x equals 1/5, and x equals negative 7/3. Here they are, all three of them. I know that I'm done because I have a degree 3 polynomial, and I have 3 answers. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so then the next one, I also have graphed. I'm going to highlight this spot right here, which is x equals negative 3. Which means that x plus 3 is a factor. So we're going to start by doing the same thing that we did on the last problem. We're going to start by dividing x plus 3 this time. Inside the box has to be all of this stuff. So we got to have an x cubed here. And I made a little mark that makes it look like a negative, so I'm going to erase that. Okay, so then we have to have an x squared here, which means we'll have a 3x squared here. We don't want 3x squared, we want 1x squared, so we got to get rid of 2 of them, so negative 2x squared's there. Okay, so then that means that I have to have a negative 2x there. Yep, okay, which means that I have to have a negative 6x here, because that's what this times this is. Oopsies, that's what this times this is. Okay, so then I don't want negative 6x, I want negative 8x, so I need to subtract 2 more x's. Negative 2x is, okay. So then I need a negative 2 there, and that means that I'm going to have a negative 6 inside the box, and this matches this, which means that I'm done with the division. All right. Now, let's rewrite our polynomial as a product. We have x plus 3 times x squared minus 2x minus 2 equals 0. Okay, so now let's use the zero product property. So we have x plus 3 equals 0. This one gives us a quick x equals negative 3. That's one of our solutions. Remember that we're going to have 3. Okay, so then the other ones come from here. X squared minus 2x minus 2 equals 0. I'm going to examine this really quickly. Does it factor? AC is negative 2, B is negative 2, and so I can't think of any numbers that add and multiply to negative 2. So let's quadratic formula again. X equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 2 all over 2 times 1. Okay, lots of 2's going on here, so just be careful. X equals positive 2 plus or minus square root of negative 2 squared is 4 minus, I suppose I should say plus because I have 2 negatives here, plus 8 all over 2. I would actually rather you simplify this just one more step. X equals 2 plus or minus square root of 12 over 2. That is just fine. I'm fine with that. Notice we have 1, 2 answers here because there's a positive and a minus. And then there's option answer number 3 right here. So we have done all 3 solutions here. So that one's done. Okay, problem 3. Same process. Notice a pattern here. X equals 7 is my answer, which means that I have x minus 7 is a factor. So we're going to divide by x minus 7. Like that. Okay, so I got to have my x cubed here. Going to end up with a x squared there. Negative 7x squared. That's what I have. Look at that. I can just move on to the next piece. So I'm just going to write my next term, which is 9x. And then I'm going to put my 9 here. And then I'm going to have a, well, look at that, negative 63. And that right here matches this, so that means I'm done. So now let's rewrite our polynomial as a product. We have x minus 7 times x squared plus 9 equals 0. Okay, zero product property. We say, okay, x minus 7 equals 0. This one is quick, plus 7 plus 7. And then we get x equals 7. That's one solution. And then that's the other way. So then we're going to subtract 9. This one we can actually get x by itself. Okay. So then x is equal to plus or minus the square root of negative 9. Ooh, or should I say I, right? Okay, square root of negative 9 is the same as the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 9. Remember that the square root of negative 1 is I, and remember that the square root of 9 is 3. So they're multiplied together, so x is equal to plus or minus 3i. So we have one solution here with the positive one with the negative 1, and one way over here for x equals 7. This one is exciting because it's not only, it's degree 4, so we have 4 answers. And we have 2 nice looking answers already given to us. So we have x equals 2 and x equals 4. And so this means that once we're going to divide by x minus 2, and then later we're going to divide by x minus 4. Okay, so let's set those up. We're going to do x minus 2 first. It doesn't really matter what order you do these in, but I'm just choosing this for no real reason. X to the 4th goes here. We're going to have an x to the 3rd up here. That means that we're going to have a negative 2x cubed. That's not what I want. I want negative 6, so I need to subtract 4 more x's, x cubeds. All right, so then I'll have negative 4x squared there, which means that I'll have an 8x squared there. I want 10x squared, so I need to add 2 more x squareds. So then I'm going to have a 2x here. And then I will have a negative 4x there. But I want negative 12x, so I need to subtract 8 x's more. Then I need to have a negative 8 there to make that work, and so then this is going to end up with a positive 16, and because this matches this, then we're done. Next, we're going to take all of the stuff that I just got out as my answer to my division problem, and that's going to go inside the box of what I'm doing next step. So there's going to be an x cubed here this time. Notice that we're working down in degree, which makes sense because we're trying to get to quadratic, which is degree 2. Alrighty. Okay, so then I need to put a x squared there. I'll do it in green, do it in red. There. So then I have a negative 4x squared there. That's actually what I have right here. And so I need to add 0 more x squareds. So then I have to have a 0x here, which means I have a 0x here. And so then I need to get to 2x, which is right here. So I'm going to add 2 x's, which means I have to have a 2 up here, which means I'm going to have a negative 8 there. And because this matches this now, that means I'm done. So let's rewrite our polynomial as a product. Let's take this x minus 2 let's take my x minus 4, and then let's take our x squared plus 2. I don't need that 0x because it's not adding anything. It's a 0. So it doesn't change the value or anything, so you don't need it anymore. So then we need to apply the zero product property. And we will get, okay, x minus 2 equals 0, x minus 4 equals 0, and then x squared plus 2 equals 0. All right, so two quick answers, there they are, but then this one should give us two more. So minus 2 minus 2, we get x squared equals negative 2, x equals plus or minus the square root of negative 2, excuse me. Okay, so then remember that negative 2 is the same as 1 times 2. Sorry, negative 1 times 2. So x equals plus or minus the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 2. So this is I, and this will just keep as the square root of 2. So x equals plus or minus I times the square root of 2. There's our other two answers. We have one with a positive, one with a negative, that one, and that one. There we are.